The traitorous Starscream is an integral character to the Transformers franchise, and he has appeared in the majority of the series' many continuities. His constant backstabbing, manipulative personality, and aspiration to become the leader of the Decepticons are all qualities shared by his many alternate universe counterparts. In this video, we're going to be counting down my 5 favourite Starscreams in any Transformers continuity. Though following the classic Starscream formula of being treacherous, deceitful, and always aspiring to become leader, the IDW Starscream is something special. Throughout IDW's many comics and spin-offs, you can see him change. During Infestation to Devastation, Starscream attempts to overthrow Megatron with the Or-13, though fails, reminiscent of his classic G1 personality. After becoming the leader of the Decepticons briefly after the events of All Hail Megatron, Starscream is beaten and shamed after Megatron's returning. This is where we see Starscream make his transformation from an aspiring leader to a fully fledged backstabber. Remaining depressed and quiet up until Robots in Disguise, we see Starscream for who he really is. He's finally given up on his goal of dethroning Megatron, knowing that that ideal is impossible after Megatron gave him a stern talking to. And by that I mean beating the crap out of him. This is why I love the IDW Starscream. His character is fleshed out extremely well, and we get to see Starscream like we've never seen him before. Of course, after being revealed to be the chosen one by a Metro Titan, Starscream is back to his old ways, eventually becoming the ruler of a dying Cybertron. He now has a main role in the Windblade ongoing series and relating titles, and though seeming like one of the good guys, still acts suspiciously and in the shadows. IDW presented a new and interesting take on the classic character, and I love this Starscream just as much as the others. The original who brought life and personality to the character, the Generation 1 Starscream is without a doubt one of my favourites. The traitorous Starscream who always thought to try to usurp Megatron from his throne is a fantastic character in the Generation 1 cartoon, being one of the most fleshed out and interesting characters. Though more often than not a bit of an idiot, Starscream is powerful enough to take on Autobots and Decepticons alike. Though not a match for Megatron, Starscream's drive to become the most powerful Transformer leads to some very interesting plots, such as the infamous Underbase saga in issues 46 to 50 of the Transformers Marvel comics, in which Starscream acquired the ultra-powerful Underbase and basically went on a rampage and murdered over half the cast of the comics. Though his schemes are crazy, he never ceases his attempts at becoming the leader of the Decepticons. His determination and drive to succeed never faltering, no matter how many beatings he receives from Megatron. His resilience is almost inspirational. Though bettered by future versions of himself, the original Starscream will always be the root of a fantastic character that Transformers could not be the same without. Being the first real threat the Autobots see in animated, as their only threats up until that point were stupid supervillains that no one cared about, the animated Starscream is an interesting take on the character, as was all of animated's cast. Having similar attributes to his Generation 1 counterpart, this Starscream is one of my favourites as he is cunning, deceitful, and manipulative, though all the while absolutely hilarious, probably one of the funniest characters in the entire show. His journey begins with his first attempt at overthrowing Megatron, which failed, but from there Starscream did not give up. When the conflict was taken to Earth, Starscream tried once again, but he was finally put down by Megatron once and for all. That was, until a shard of the Allspark became embedded in his head, causing his spark to become inextinguishable. With immortality on his side, Starscream's attempts to overthrow his leader were relentless, and his schemes only became crazier. At some point in the show, Starscream creates clones of himself that each represent an aspect of his wicked personality. Chaos and hilarity ensues. I mean, Starscream starts flirting with his female clone. I don't even want to think about that one. At the end of animated, Starscream is finally put to rest when Prowl recreated the Allspark, the shard being ripped from his head causing him to finally go offline. Most likely the most powerful and heavily armed Starscream out there, the animated Starscream takes number 3 on this list for his hilarious character and undying spirit. Yeah, get it? Undying spirit because he didn't die. No, thank you, you're too kind. Oh, stop it. Also, I can hear nothing but the Ice King when I listen to Starscream speak. Is that just me?
The name is Starscream, exalted leader of all Decepticons!
The Starscream from Armada is unique in the sense that he is almost a completely different character. I mentioned specifically Armada, as the Energon Starscream had no personality whatsoever, just like everyone and everything in that mess of a show, and the Cybertron Starscream was just a cheap ripoff of Generation 1 minus any of the good bits. This Starscream was powerful, vicious and cunning, and for most of the time he was actually really loyal to Megatron. Unlike most Starscreams, however, this one had feelings. He cared about things other than himself. He even once became an Autobot briefly after meeting the human Alexis. The two formed a bond, though Starscream's loyalties to the Decepticons proved to be too great. That wouldn't stop fanfiction writers from going crazy, however. Still, when he sacrificed himself at the end of the show to stop the two leaders from fighting so they could team up to defeat the true threat, Starscream proved himself to be a true warrior, not just to Optimus and Megatron, but to everyone. He knew of how dire a threat Unicron was, and knew that his life was what needed to be taken in order for Megatron and Optimus to work together to defeat it. Starscream was easily the most developed character in Armada, and his story arc had a satisfying conclusion. Until Energon ruined it, that is. Finally, taking the number 1 spot on this list is the Starscream from the Aligned continuity, for reasons I'm sure many of you are aware. While much like his other incarnations with the main goal of overthrowing his leader, this Starscream's constant cowardice and panic attacks are an absolute joy to watch. The Aligned Starscream is the one that appears in both the Cybertron games and the Prime cartoon, and these two versions of the tale both display a different retelling of Starscream. The War for Cybertron Starscream had an origin story of a scientist, much like his Generation 1 self, and was set to guard the Dark Energon Chamber along with his other Seekers. When Megatron attacked, he swore allegiance to the Tyrant, though his history of treachery wouldn't take long to commence. In the Prime cartoon, Starscream had elements of his original self, but is more intelligent, cunning, and clever. This Starscream is a lovable character, and as we go through Prime, it's a joy to wonder how Screamer's latest plans will fail this time, no matter how refined it is. Though powerful enough to hold his own against one or two Autobots, Starscream's most appealing quality is his persistence and determination towards his goal of conquering and leading the Decepticons. Starscream just has this charm that makes every episode of Prime more enjoyable to watch, knowing that as fearsome as Starscream appears to be on the outside, he'll never live up to the reputation that precedes him. And it appears we'll be seeing even more of Starscream in Season 3 of Robots in Disguise. Prime did Starscream's character perfectly, and for that, Aligned Starscream takes the top spot on my list. Thanks for watching this video. Want more Incarnations lists? Well, be sure to vote in the poll above to let me know who you want to see next. Also, if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to keep up with future videos. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video. Diamondbolt out. Just make the Bayformers fans happy, DB. You can do this. The Dark of the Moon Shockwave was an interesting take on the character, giving a unique and terrifying design that was very different to that of the previous Shockwave we've seen. Rather than his usual slender appearance, this Shockwave was more muscular and even had a mouth, which is a first for Shockwave. He He was immensely hyped up when Dark of the Moon was announced, being a character many were looking forward to seeing on the big screen. He even appeared as part of an Easter egg in Revenge of the Fallen, in which he appeared on a newspaper article alluding to his future appearance. He played a massive role in... No! I can't do this! He doesn't do anything except die! He was shoved into the movie for absolutely no reason, and then has a crap kicked out of him by Optimus. He doesn't do anything! He had so much potential and it was completely wasted. You know what? Screw Dark of the Moon Shockwave. This spot goes to Creo Shockwave. At least he's a more faithful version of the character. There. Done. Moving on. Hate you, Michael. Okay, back to being serious. I feel like it is a crime putting the animated Shockwave so low on the list, and I really feel like I'm not giving him the attention he deserves. The problem with Shockwave is that he's almost always awesome. The animated Shockwave does not let down in this department. In the animated cartoon, he disguises himself as Longarm, working his way up the Autobot ranks and eventually make it to Communications Officer, where he is able to feed Megatron vital information. One of the biggest plot twists in the show is when Longarm reveals himself to be Shockwave in the episode Auto Boot Camp, in which he sets Wasp up as a Decepticon spy, so that Bumblebee and Bulkhead keep their attention on him rather than Longarm. Shockwave was terrifying in animated, being responsible for the supposed death of Blur via crushing him between security hatches, but he's alive now, so that's okay, and for severely damaging and eventually killing Ultra Magnus. Shockwave was immensely powerful, cunning, sneaky, and an effective member of the Decepticons, one of the Autobots' biggest threats in the show. Seeing him captured along with the other Decepticons in the final episode of Animated was a powerful moment, one that really makes me wish even more so that Animated got its 4th season that it rightfully deserves. Despite this seemingly low placement on the list, the animated Shockwave is without a doubt one of my favourites. Though being quite pathetic in the Generation 1 cartoon in the sense that he doesn't really ever do anything, ever, the Marvel Comics Generation 1 Shockwave is the one that I found to be a fantastic incarnation of Shockwave, being the original. So let's disregard one half of him here, shall we? While doing basically nothing in the Generation 1 cartoon, as I previously mentioned, Shockwave is quite the opposite in the Marvel Comics. In his first appearance, he managed to single-handedly deactivate every single one of the Autobots, save Ratchet, separate Optimus' head from his body, use the Creation Matrix to create Jetfire and the Constructicons, overthrew Megatron after besting him in combat, scared the Decepticons into following him, and indirectly created Circuit Breaker. All over the course of a few issues. Yes, he's that awesome. His reign of terror didn't end there, however. In the later run of the comics, Shockwave battled the current leader of the Decepticons yet again, this time Scorponok.
Shockwave's silent and cold and calculating demeanour made for such an interesting character, and his reliance on logic is what made him so successful. Combine that with the fact that he was a fairly capable fighter, being able to tangle with the best of the best as previously mentioned, and Shockwave was one pretty powerful Decepticon. Though eventually meeting his end at the hand of Death's Head and the end of the Marvel UK comics, the Marvel US continuity had a different outcome for our favourite evil scientist. The Regeneration 1 comics continued directly after the Marvel US comics, showing us that Shockwave had survived the arc crash on Earth that had put he and a fairly large portion of the Decepticons out of commission. In this, Shockwave is his usual self, though by the end of it forms an interesting relationship with Starscream, eventually developing some form of emotion towards him. He was shocked when he showed compassion towards his teammate when he went to retrieve him when he was unconscious. Shockwave was like no Transformer we've ever seen before, and was such an amazing and unique character compared to his fellow cast of Transformers. He was truly terrifying, and that's why we love him.
The reason the aligned Shockwave is so fantastic is because he takes everything that was great about the original Generation 1 Shockwave and improves it by tenfold. Though still his usual mad scientist self, Shockwave is more sinister, more powerful, and more evil in both the Cybertron games and the Prime cartoon, in which he plays a massive role in the 3rd season Beast Hunters. Being responsible for the creation of the Predacons, Shockwave is a very capable scientist and warrior, able to take on the Autobots if he is required to, though he prefers to avoid conflict entirely. He is a slave to logic, following only what he seems as logical as right. His personality clashes with that of Starscream, causing the two to often be at ends with each other, though Shockwave wins any argument that he may have in his own way. Shockwave's list of achievements is grand. He is responsible for giving the Dinobots their dinosaur alt modes in Fall of Cybertron. He managed to create Devastator out of the 6 Constructicons in novel Transformers Exodus. He experimented on and changed the 3 Insecticons Hardshell, Kickback and Sharpshot and put them under his command. And, as previously mentioned, in the Prime cartoon, one of his biggest projects was the cloning of old Predacon fossils, including Predaking, Skylynx and Darksteel. His twisted and horrifying experiments created some of the more unique Transformers on both sides, indirectly or directly. Though at the end of the show, Shockwave seemingly disappears amongst Megatron's Terracon army, Shockwave is still out there somewhere, and we can only hope we'll see this awesome character return in the new second season of Robots in Disguise. As I've covered in the past before, IDW handles its characters in a way never seen before, making previously unheard of characters fantastic and only improving the ones we all know and love. Shockwave is a fantastic example of the latter, and in my opinion one of IDW's finest characters to date. Shockwave was given an interesting and compelling backstory, once being a senator part of a corrupt senate. We got to see Shockwave as who he truly once was, a completely different person to the one we know. Shockwave may have been scary in the past, but the IDW Shockwave is truly terrifying. There's just something intriguing about his character that makes him stand out amongst all the other Shockwaves. He always seems to have a plan in action, being the reason that the Decepticons and Autobots wore to Earth in the first place, when he began planting the Ore-13 seeds back in the prehistoric times of the planet. That would cause a chain reaction of events that would eventually result in the majority of the Transformers' continued conflict. In the Dark Cybertron series in 2012, Shockwave was at his best, always being one step ahead of those trying to stop him. His small team of Decepticons was all that he had, and even when they betrayed him to go to the Autobots' side, he still managed to prevail. The Dark Cybertron crossover was basically everyone versus Shockwave, and Shockwave's cold logic and preparation allowed him to be the victor for the most part, being responsible for raising the Ammonite army, creating the Necro-Titan, and making Dreadwing and Waspinator betray their own comrades in order to serve him. He was even responsible for Bumblebee's death, one-shotting the Autobot with a cannon blast. In the end, it was Shockwave's own madness that caused his end, his body and mind being overcome with fear. He was regretting what he had become, prompted after seeing Megatron don an Autobot symbol. After Megatron and Optimus destroyed his time drive, Shockwave was consumed, and finally put to rest. However, Shockwave had died as his old senator self, not the monster he had slowly developed into. This death was a very powerful moment, and while a not spectacular death was certainly a fitting end to such a character, Shockwave had a massive impact on the IDW continuity, and was without a doubt one of my personal favourite characters to ever grace the series. There will truly never be another character like him, and that's what makes him so unique. Seeing someone replace Shockwave would simply be illogical. Being the reincarnated version of Megatron, the ferocious Galvatron is everything his past self was and more. Immensely powerful, cunning, and more often than not completely off his rocker, Galvatron is a memorable and awesome Transformers character. In this list, we're going to be counting down my top 5 incarnations of Galvatron. As to be expected with the Michael Bay movies, this Galvatron is nothing like the one we were all expecting. Instead, we got the human-made rebuilt form of Megatron. Wait, what? Yes, this incarnation of Galvatron wasn't created by Unicron, nor is he a time traveler. No, rather, he is KSI's greatest achievement. Built using the parts of the deceased Megatron, the group used their new Transformium material, which, by the way, is the greatest name of all time, right up there with Gundamium and My Little Ponium, to create the powerful Galvatron. But wait, what's this? Megatron's essence still remains within, and he has complete control of what was supposed to be a mindless drone? What? Though his questionable origin and pointlessness in the Age of Extinction is worth mentioning, I have to say I don't mind the movieverse Galvatron. He's unique, to say the least. Not much can be said about him until we see more of him in The Last Night, but I can certainly say I am excited to see more of him. But seriously, Transformium? The original Galvatron, in my opinion, is not necessarily the best. Though he started off as this amazingly badass character in Transformers the movie, being the reincarnated version of Megatron who dared to oppose Unicron and finally off Starscream, he eventually became this insane psychopath after suffering brain damage at the hands of Rodimus Prime. There's even an episode of the G1 cartoon where Cyclonus takes Galvatron to a medical planet where he can have a therapy session with the rejects from Planet of the Apes. Seriously, I have no idea how they wrote all these episodes. Galvatron's schemes and plans are even crazier than that of Megatron's. I mean, there was that one time when he aspired... What the heck? Oh my god. Oh, and his plan failed. And then he was buried under ice. Good work, Galvi. Despite the aforementioned plan, he's unpredictable, powerful, and completely and utterly insane. That's what makes the original Galvatron a very interesting character, though in my opinion, not the best Galvatron out there. The Unicron trilogy had Megatron undergo the transformation into Galvatron 3 separate times. Armada's Galvatron was okay. He was certainly powerful and looked much better than Megatron did. But aside from a name change, not much really happened. For that, I didn't feel he deserved a position on this list. I'm not even going to bother to mention Energon's transformation, it was unnecessary and ridiculous, just like the show. Cybertron's, however, was a rapid change. Though the reason for his transformation, being that he was consumed with rage and called upon the powers of both his Unicron-infused armor and the power of the Gigantian Key and was changed... What? Cybertron's Galvatron was immensely powerful. In his first battle with Optimus, Galvatron absolutely decimated his foe. He would continue to brutally battle throughout the rest of his appearances near the end of the show until his final battle with Optimus, which was an absolutely epic duel. Though this Galvatron's personality wasn't much different to that of his previous form, he was still a fairly formidable character and a way to make the end of Cybertron just that little bit more exciting. But let's be honest here, the only reason he kept transforming into Galvatron was so Hasbro could keep the name. This Galvatron is insane. No, literally. If you thought the cartoon one was crazy, you ain't seen nothing yet. This Galvatron was insanely powerful. His debut appearance was in the legendary Target 2006 saga, in which he travelled into the past to combat the Autobots, who stood no chance against him. Galvatron in the Marvel Comics was portrayed as nigh invincible and ridiculously powerful.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? It's over 9,000!
With nobody able to stand in his way. He had a very prominent role in the Marvel Comics, so much so that he had many different versions of him within the one continuity. Galvatron 2 is the name given to the Galvatron of an alternate timeline where Unicron succeeds in his conquest of Earth. This Galvatron is even more insane than that of the G1 cartoon version of himself. Though he was eventually defeated at the end of the comics run, Galvatron was a fearsome foe, trashing and killing several characters, fighting the powerful Ultra Magnus to a standstill in the legendary duel contained within Target 2006, and even killed Rodimus Prime in an alternate timeline. That, and at one point he fought and then later teamed up with the past version of himself, Megatron. That was interesting. No matter what version of Galvatron it is, the reincarnation of the Decepticon leader is a fearsome and terrifying character. Have you gotten the impression that I really love the way IDW does its characters yet? No? The IDW Galvatron, in my opinion, is the greatest incarnation of the Tyrant, and though being different to past versions himself certainly, contains all that makes Galvatron a legendary character. Though just like his Age of Extinction counterpart, this Galvatron is not a time traveller and has no connection to Unicron. This one, however, is not a mindless drone forced into a movie for no reason. Rather, Galvatron is a powerful warrior from the old ages of Cybertron. During IDW's earlier run, Galvatron did not have a very major role, though as time went on he became more and more of a prevalent character. One of his first major roles was getting himself involved with the D-Void and bringing the powerful beast to Cybertron, forcing Optimus and Megatron to work together to defeat it at the end of IDW's ongoing Transformers comic. Though he was believed to be dead in the aftermath, Galvatron reappeared during the Dark Cybertron crossover event and played a fairly large role in some of it. He even got to tear Megatron in half at one point, which was just awesome. And that caused Bumblebee and Megatron to become buddies. Now, in the more recent Robots in Disguise comics, Galvatron leads the Decepticons against Optimus Prime and his team of Autobots on Earth. What makes this Galvatron so awesome is that he's powerful, he's independent, he knows what he's doing. He's what the G1 Galvatron could have been if it weren't for the brain damage he suffered. And though he strays away from the usual Galvatron formula, he still in a way succeeds Megatron, taking command of the Decepticons in Megatron's absence. He's exactly what you would want from a successor of Megatron, and that to me is why he deserves the top spot on this list.
Soundwave, I am Decepticon. The revolution begins now. Begins now.
Me out of here fast. There won't be enough of me left for spare parts.
Prepare for oblivion.
Set course for Regulon 4. You have something to say, Soundwave? I command this vessel. You will resume your post. Step aside.
Soundwave superior. Autobots inferior. Yes. Yes! Yes. 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 Oh, yes. Decepticons, transform! Transform!
Leave them, Blitzwing. The Allspark takes precedence over a few insignificant Autobots. Besides, they're not long for this world. Decepticons, transform and rise up!
I know why you're here, Megatron. Hardly a surprise, Optimus. After all, you and I have been at this a long time, and your time has come to an end.